Hello, Uta here of Trans Widow, Uta Hagen YouTube channel and Substack blog, utahagen.substack.com, with good news regarding Tish Hyman's continued advocacy for women and girls. She had a very interesting exchange. Please do look for that. I'm sure it's all over X by now. Her exchange was at an open house or a town hall for gubernatorial candidate Eric Swalwell in California, and she very bravely said her statements about there is no such thing as a trans kid. There are children, there are men, and they are women. Stop calling them other things, and we are not going to put up with men assaulting women in the locker rooms. And Swalwell had a very interesting non-response where he says, I want to protect all women. But of course, his usual audience is going to assume that he means men and women being women. Anyway, so brava, Tish Hyman, shout out to you. When I find it on Irene Brit USA or one of my other sister channels, I will for sure link that in our community posts. I've linked a lot of these Webberley Woo interviews in my community posts. And the other good news, though, before I go into Webberley Woo Part 2, is that New Zealand has now stopped authorizing doctors to prescribe exactly the puberty blockers, that is, gonadotrophin agonist chemicals that act on and suppress the pituitary gland in adolescents to suppress puberty and to prevent minors under 18s from getting the wrong sex hormones when they have a psychiatric illness, which is known as, in their world, gender dysphoria, but I call cross-sex ideation. So the kind of transcript section I want to read you of Webberley Woo is from, I find it kind of, there's a song that we used to sing. It was a Raffi song. It went, Willoughby Wallaby Woo. And so I want to say, Webberley, Webberley, woo. An elephant sat on you. Anyway, that's all the singing I will do for you tonight. I'm not in very good voice. All right. So after the logical biological definition that Helen Joyce gave of sex, which is the gametes version, the actual biology, the reality that males with XY chromosomes produce sperm, gamete, and the females, XX chromosomes, have organs that produce the ova. And when the sperm meets the ova, conception happens, and the sperm contributes either an X chromosome or a Y chromosome, and Y meaning the fetus is going to be male, and X meaning the fetus is going to be female. And there's a lot of nonsense that stems from the previous anachronistic term intersex that doctors used to describe anomalous sexual development, disorders of sexual development, which are chromosomal congenital disorders causing things like the ARD5, disorder of sexual development, where males have ambiguous male genitalia at birth and are misidentified as females, but then go through normal puberty. And so they are males, and there are about 60 now in the history of high-level Olympic or other high-level athletics, 60 males with ARD5 chromosomal abnormality who were misidentified as females and who have taken female first places and things like that in high level and Olympic sports in the world. So, and of course, that would displace many more than 60 women out of those top places in the sports. But to get to Webberley's circular woo words on the Times radio interview with Helen Joyce, after this chromosomal definition which Helen Joyce gave, Webberley said, in response to what's your definition of the sexes, she said, it's very various in humans, as if humans are not mammals who have XX and XY chromosomes. You'll notice my XXXY card from the clothing company, XXXY Athletics, Jennifer Say. Do order from them. Christmas is coming. And they have a lot of good stuff. Okay. Okay. So, so it's very various in humans. And I think in that various, she's referring to the intersex thing. If she decided to go off on a tangent, that's probably where she was headed. But then she says, to say that there's just one or the other is incorrect. And then the thing is, if Helen Joyce interrupted her and said, what do you mean incorrect? Then most likely she would have gone into the disorders of sexual development and called them intersex and said that there are humans who appear to be of mixed sex, and this is completely incorrect because now we have chromosomal testing and we know that humans are either XX or XY. That is how it is, even when it is the congenital defect of XXY. Having a Y means that you are male. All right. Whereas gender, she steps right into the gender thing without really defining a real definition of sex. Whereas gender is a deep personal identity of how someone lives their life, how they express themselves, how they see themselves, and that's, as we know, that is completely unrelated to their chromosome pattern or their organs or anatomy. So I guess what she's saying indirectly here is that chromosome patterns, organs, and anatomy are sex, but there's this thing of having a gender that is not aligned with your chromosomal pattern, organs, and anatomy. Okay, and she actually, this gets very repetitious. I'm just realizing I actually started this over because I thought I was reading the same sentence again and that I had made a mistake, but no, she's repeating what she said. If it is personality, which I think Helen Joyce had referred to gender as being personality, so then Webberley states, if it is personality, what's wrong with that? Of course, what's wrong with that? It's how somebody wishes to live their life, how somebody sees themselves, which is, she already said this previously, how somebody fits into this world. You know what? If you want to fit into the world, instead of thinking constantly about yourself, think about what you can do for others and what you can do for Mother Nature, and then you will feel you have a place in this world. Okay, and then to this, how somebody fits into this world, Helen Joyce says, so stereotypes. And then Webberley responds, why is personality a stereotype? To which I think both Helen Joyce and I would say, yes, why? Why are painted fingernails, magenta lips, dark eyeshadow, long hair, and frilly dresses personality that indicates that you are female if you are a male wearing all those things? Okay, so But you know what these people do, what these ideologues like Webberley do is they talk really fast. They continue right on. They don't take a breath. You can't jump in. You'll be perceived as interrupting them. You cannot actually have a normal give and take. You know, and the thing is, often these people have memorized about 3 paragraphs, and if you let them, they'll take up all the time, and then the interviewer says, well, we're out of time. You know, we'll bring this all back up and get into the details, the weeds, the woo weeds, next time. So anyway, I don't see it as a stereotype. What do you mean by that? And then that was her mistake, giving a little leeway for Helen Joyce to step in. And Helen Joyce says, to call it something that's to do with being a boy or a girl. You haven't given it a definition. It's circular. So the truth is, she hasn't defined either sex or gender. She's made a bunch of pontification, none of which really has a logical thread. But she continues. To boil the whole of humanity down to gametes, to say that the whole of humanity is boiled down to whether you make eggs or sperm is so mathematical, so binary, so basic. It's actually a basic misunderstanding of biology. What a claim. Oh my. And so Helen Joyce simply says, and she maintains this calm, not like I'm doing right now. Helen Joyce calmly says, no boiling down, no reducing. We just come in 2 types. You're a boy or you're a girl. Do anything you like. Don't let it hold you back. Go to the moon, be the president, anything you like, but you'll still be a boy or be a girl. Then Webberley says, you've boiled it down. Again, she repeats, I think, 4 times this boiling word. Boiled it down to gametes. You say you either have ovaries or testicles, but there are many different variations. And she's probably referring to the intersex myth. I think we should call it that, the intersex myth, because we know now you can test for chromosomes, and if the chromosomes do not produce the normal development, the normal adolescent sexual secondary sex characteristic development, that is then a disorder of sexual development. And it's not an insult to people to call something a disorder. When you have something not going right, then something is wrong. And using this kind of circular illogic is basically the same as these ideologues who will say, well, some women are infertile, so they can't have children, so you can't say that women are the ones who have babies. And there was another interview where someone said to her, and now I can't remember which one it was, she's been in 4 or 5 interviews recently, but the interviewer said, so you say that men can have babies, males can have babies. And she just answers point blank, yes, males can have babies. Meaning females who have produced ova and have had it fertilized and are carrying a pregnancy, and if they have been taking testosterone to develop male secondary sex characteristics like a beard and a deep voice, then they are actually endangering their fetus that they are carrying. And this is why we have to take these risks and speak out and deal with the fact that Helen Webberley is actually quite antagonistic and aggressive, and in fact reported my friend Kelly Oliver Douglas to her supervising certification board for her counseling certifications in the UK. Kind of interesting when, for legitimate reasons, Webberley's certifications for practicing medicine have been questioned. She apparently won on appeal, but, she decided not to try to continue to practice her prescription or online medicine company in the UK. She now bases it out of Singapore. And I want her to stay away from our children in the United States. Be well. Don't get into any lengthy discussions. You can send your relatives over here. Unless someone is about to change their mind and realize that ideology does meet reality, and there are two sexes, and we want to protect girls and women and have our sex-segregated spaces. We do not want to allow our ex-husbands, we trans widows, we don't want to allow our ex-husbands to go around in the world claiming in writing, like my ex-husband did on official forms, that he is the mother of the children you carried for 9 months of pregnancy and gave birth to and nursed, like I did for 2 years. All right. Oh, gosh, we are making progress. I am feeling quite a bit encouraged, more encouraged than I was, I know, a year ago. Take care, and we'll see you the next time.